In this episode, we're talking about ways to keep your radio station website fast on a daily basis.
This is Better Radio Websites, the podcast for radio professionals who want to see their website generate more traffic and revenue. Each week, your host, Jim Sherwood, and his special guests give you time-tested tips and secret tricks to ensure your radio station dominates digital in your market. Here we go.
Hi, it's Jim, and welcome to Better Radio Websites, the podcast that wants to help you get more visitors and the most revenue from your radio station website. Well, I don't know if you know this, but most of these podcast episodes, as they're done weekly, come from things that happen in the week prior. And something came up this past week, spawning me to discuss this with everyone. This week, I discovered that a few client websites are still adding large images to their article post, even though that they were taught how to make everything optimized and the proper sizes and the proper format. These extra steps that are required to optimize these images, they are very, very important. So why aren't they doing this? Well, I blame Facebook. I blame Facebook for a lot of things, but images on websites on a daily basis is the top reason. Because Facebook doesn't give you a size restriction. They don't give you a file type restriction. You can upload an 8K image from your DSLR camera, and it will convert it to the size you need it to, and it's going to look great wherever it is on Facebook. And it also ditches that huge original. You never have to think about the size of the image or anything like that, unless you're on a slow internet connection, and then uploading that image to Facebook is going to take a while, and then they're optimizing it is going to take a while also, so you may have to wait on that. But other than that, you don't have to think about it. Unfortunately, most website content management systems, they don't do any of this. Several content management systems out there will create smaller alternate copies of the image that you upload that can be served from time to time. But without the addition of costly other plugins and that sort of thing, none of them will convert the image to mobile-friendly formats and then ditch the originals. And you do want to remove that huge image that you uploaded. Otherwise, it's taking up valuable server space, and your backups can take a long time. And if you need to get a backup of your website later in the future, that's going to be huge, and you're going to have to go mull through all of that. And it's just going to be a headache long term. So what is page load time, and why is it so important? Because you will hear me harp on this very, very often, because it is so very important to how your radio station website works and you making money from said radio station website. So load time is the length of time it takes for a web page to load, fully be downloaded and displaying on your screen from between the time somebody hits click or enter on their keyboard and the time that it's fully displayed within their browser. Now, that number matters because nowadays we expect websites to be fast. We want it immediately. When pages take longer than expected to load, it negatively impacts our user experience. Google and other search engines, they factor in loading time into how they rank your website in search results. Faster websites appear higher in search results than slower loading websites. Now, it's important to note here that your particular internet speed does not play into that equation whatsoever. If you're on a bad connection, yes, anything is going to take longer to load. We're talking about if you have a perfect internet connection across the board, okay? So let's look at some ways how we can keep our websites loading faster. The biggest culprit for slow loading websites across the board, it doesn't have to be a radio station website. It could be any website that you find on the internet. The biggest culprit is not optimizing large images, full-size images. They can consume a huge amount of bandwidth and take so long to load. I've been to restaurant websites where I downloaded a picture of their dining room, and this thing is huge, 4 megabytes, just huge image sitting on their homepage. That takes a long time to download. So take the time and resize every image before you upload it to any website, even if you're uploading it to Facebook, who does all that stuff in the background. Because when you do that, it's going to take you less time to upload that image and get it online. And the image file format that you save your image in, it can significantly determine the file size. PNG files are typically 2 to 4 times larger in file size than a JPEG image of the exact same dimensions. You can also reduce the image quality. Now, this doesn't mean to make your photos look bad. It just means tweaking some simple settings. For JPEG images, this is done by directly reducing the quality factor. You won't see any significant changes from the original version if the quality setting is around 70 to 80%, which I typically start of around 50%. And if that looks good, I'll kind of go a little bit lower and a little bit lower and a little bit lower, trying to make the file size as low as I can while maintaining a pretty good looking image. It really depends on where I'm using this on the website. So start at 50%. If that looks good, try to go a little bit lower. If it doesn't, then go inch up a little bit higher until it looks good enough for you. But also take into consideration that the higher the number is, the bigger the file size. Now, if you must use a GIF or PNG image, then try reducing the quality by choosing smaller color palettes. For GIFs and PNGs, they don't go by quality, they go by the number of colors being used in the image. So take those optimization steps into consideration the next time that you're uploading images to the website, and be sure that every image that you upload is edited in some form. Don't take an image directly from wherever you got it and upload it to the website. Several of our radio station clients import digital content from ABC News, and I had to reach out to their team this week to ask if their authors could use optimized images. Yeah, I had to reach out to the big ABC News because some of their authors were pulling stock images directly from their archives at full resolution and sending them down the feed. So each website importing this RSS feed had to convert these 4K 10 megabytes images to something usable on the website. And each one was taking up valuable server resources that could have been used to keeping that website fast. Now, in the coming years, we'll start hearing about how eco-friendly each website is. And I'm sure that will be a determining factor in search results as well, because if a website is using significant amounts of server resources, well, those resources take energy, and energy comes from wherever the energy is coming from. So is it good for the planet? So there goes the eco-friendly factor of how your website is. Just remember, it's always best to optimize every image before uploading them to the website. I can't say that enough. I feel like I'm harping on it, but this is really, really important. All right, the second way that you can speed up your website on a daily basis is to decrease displaying off-site RSS feeds. RSS feeds are popular because they contain content that you may not have on your website. I mean, we mentioned how ABC News has an RSS feeds and stations are importing that to keep visitors on their website. As a matter of fact, we kind of discourage displaying any off-site RSS feeds on a radio station website because when people click on it, they leave your site and they leave your advertisers and they leave your content and they may not come back. They'll go and bookmark where they got that great information from and they'll have no reason to come back to you. But there may be times when you want to display an RSS feed from another website that you own. In that case, you're cross-promoting your brands, and that's great. However, displaying an external RSS feed means that the web page has to load that content from where it's getting the information from. Now, if that website is slow for any reason, it's going to slow down your page that you're trying to display that page on. Let's use that large image example of somebody uploading a 4K 10 megabytes image, huge file, okay? Now, let's say that story is embedded on your news radio station website. So the feed that we're pulling from is that radio station, that news talk radio station. And we're going to put that on our rock station homepage. All right, so that big, huge image is on the news station, and we're displaying an RSS feed of the news station on our rock station. So when somebody goes to the rock station, that page is going to load a lot slower now because this huge image is coming from another website. It's going to take that page longer to load because it has to download that image every time that somebody comes to that page. Now, both websites are going to be slow because both of the sites have this huge image on it. Another way that you can speed up your website is to limit or stop the use of sliders and carousels. Well, we've been talking about this quite a few times, how sliders are kind of on their way out across the internet. Well, sliders and carousels, they can also bring a lot of extra code in the background that can be slow to process. Servers can take a while to process that information and actually make the slider happen. Expect horrible load times if you're using one of those sliders with a visual type of admin that allows you to animate slides in and out from all directions and then have multiple elements on each slide, animate in differently and that sort of thing. Those just take forever to load, and they're not really appealing, and sliders don't convert. Doesn't matter how cool and jazzy they are, they just don't. Instead, replace them with one or two multiple calls to action that are static. That's just two images and maybe some text rather than a bunch of images and a lots of flying pizzazz. And then lastly, speed up your website by trying to minimize the amount of ads on your pages. Now, an important goal for any radio station website is to make money. To do that, you're going to need great content and a fast loading website. If your website is slow, people will not return day after day, regardless of how awesome your content is. I promise you, they will get fed up with it and they just won't return. I'm sorry, they won't. So where do ads play into this? Well, most of them are images. And we know now that large amounts of images that are not optimized well is the biggest culprit to slow loading websites. So it's only fitting that we try to reduce that number, okay? Try to examine ways to add more value to your clients, like offering specific page and feature sponsorships and other things outside of the website. There's tons of digital things that you could do, like social media posts, YouTube videos, Facebook Live. I can go on and on and on, and we have other podcasts that deal with that specifically. But at least if you're going to do it on one page of your website, do it on the homepage. Try to do all of these things that we're talking about, because the homepage is basically the face of your website. It's going to be the page that's visited the most often. So try to take all of these steps and put them into action on your homepage. Now, the biggest takeaway from today, optimize your images, every single one of them. Only upload them in the size that you need and try to make that file size as small as you can. Now, if you have somebody on your team that just isn't jumping on board with this, they are the ones in the back of the boat with their paddle in the water slowing you down. Do not let them do this. And don't let them tell you that they don't have the proper tools in order to make the optimizations happen. There are dozens of websites online that are absolutely free that will convert file types. And then there are about a half a dozen free image editors like the pxlr.com/editor editor that we've talked about before. So, I mean, there's lots of options out there that they can use. Visitors return to faster websites, and those websites will get more shares and more clicks. That's going to be the best value that you can give to your advertisers, and it's going to provide you more money, because with a fast website, lots of great content, more advertisers are going to be begging to be a part of that, all right? So go out there and make your website faster, because that is going to impact your bottom line. Have an awesome week online making your radio station website better. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Better Radio Websites. Inspired by today's episode? Be sure you are subscribed and share this episode with a friend. Visit skyrocketradio.com/podcasts for more episodes, as well as show notes for this episode. Need help starting or making your station website better? Visit skyrocketradio.com.